This is a story about a time when I almost destroyed what I wanted to build by being uninformed, not having enough knowledge about what I was doing and what would be appropriate, what wouldn't. When we lived in Haiti, every year the church there would have a celebration of the founding of the church in January, about the third week in January. And at that point, we didn't have a church building yet. We were meeting under a brush arbor. It was a structure with um, posts, and then it was covered with palm leaves, and it gave shade. It didn't really protect from the rain, but it was at least in the sun. It gave shade from the sun, and that's where we would have church. So um, but we were going to have the celebration, and this celebration service was kind of a unique service. They would have a lot of singing and special group singing and skits. People would do skits and stuff. And so Pastor Paul said to me, maybe your family should do some American skits. So I said, okay, well, yeah, we could do some American skits. And so we planned two skits. One was where you have a little person that looks like a midget, and you have one person be the head and another person be the arms, and you do stuff. Anyway, that was one, and that was fine. The other skit we had was a skit where we all sat on a bench and pretended that we were in a boat. And we were rocking and we were rowing the boat, and then we started to pretend we were getting seasick, and we had a bucket, and in the bucket we had put just a little bit of water in the bottom of the bucket before we started the skit. And so we pretended we were getting seasick. We all acted like we were throwing up in the bucket, but we weren't actually throwing up in the bucket. Then when um, we got the bucket to the back of the boat, the person at the back of the boat took the bucket and kind of threw the water out over the audience. Well, the problem was that right before our skit, there were men from the community that came that weren't didn't go to church, that weren't believers, but they came because it was kind of an entertaining service and people liked to come and watch what was happening. They were sitting in the back and they had been starting to create a disturbance. Well, one of the pastors, he was actually from another church, but he got up and he was saying to these men, okay, you guys are creating a disturbance back there. We want all of you to come up, sit in the front row. And so, right before our skit, all these men who didn't come to the church and that we didn't know that well moved to the front row. And then we threw this water out over the audience. And of course, it hit them. They thought we had actually thrown up in the bucket and then that we had thrown it on them. And that was incredibly disrespectful. And they, it just blew up. Like they were just like, and started shouting, and they went outside and started to get rocks and started to throw rocks in through the roof and uh, stone us, and they were saying they're going to tear down the structure, they're going to destroy the church. And Pastor Credis was a pastor from a neighboring church, and he and his wife and some people, they got around us and got us in the middle of a group of people to protect us. And Pastor Paul and some of the others went outside to talk to these men, and eventually they got everything calmed down. And Pastor Paul was telling them it wasn't what you think it was. It was just water. Like, just smell your clothing. It's just water. Everything's fine. And they came back in. But anyway, the church almost got destroyed. Um, so by the time it was all done, they thought, well, okay, we think we have everything calmed down and everything's going to be okay. But Pastor Paul had some men come down to our house during the night a couple times and just walk around the house because they weren't quite sure if these men were going to try and get retaliation somehow and or not. But nothing happened. Everything was fine. The next day, Pastor Paul went to visit some of them just to make sure that everything was okay and that everything was fine. And they said we weren't angry, we were just surprised. So it all worked out okay. And Pastor Paul said, I should have had you tell me what skit you were going to do before you did it because I could have told you that that wouldn't work, that that wasn't a good idea. So I should have checked before I did something like that. And my lack of knowledge and my lack of experience and understanding almost destroyed the very thing that I was there to help and trying to build.